don't think I was ready to watch this. A very important discussion about gacha tourism. I think I also may have left more confused than when I began this adventure. So, go get some popcorn or whatever. We're going for a ride. All right, let's go.
Fine, let's talk about this. As the title suggests, let's talk about tourists. I recently saw a video from the Anime Man about this, about how it's a thing in the anime community, but while I was watching it, I constantly saw parallels to what he was saying and the sort of things that I'd been seeing in the gacha community too. So I wanted to make this video with his video in mind to just show you those parallels that stood out to me. First of all, if you're not familiar with what I mean by tourists, then congratulations, you're one of the lucky few. But I'm not talking about tourists that you might see.
If you don't know what a tourist is, you're probably a tourist. I'm probably a tourist, dude. I tour everything. I'm around the world. I'm
around
a tour.
Buckingham Palace or Niagara Falls or the Great Wall of China taking selfies or something like that. I'm talking about the tourists specifically in the subculture sense of the word. People who have heard about a popular title like Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Uma Musume, and thought that they'd like to see what it's like, and they're looking at them from a surface but not really understanding the history or context of these games. And these kinds of
Bro, I don't think anyone needs to go take a 20-hour course on every gacha game they play. But if we're going into I think we know where we're going here. We're gonna people speaking absolute garbage about stuff without playing the game at all. All right, let's see.
Present in many different niches, not just gacha games, but things like I mentioned earlier: anime, cosplay, movies, music, etc. And today I want to talk about the tourists of
also. Bro, isn't this tourist thing just kind of like the ultimate gatekeep? We don't respect your opinion unless you hit X, Y, Z bar, dude.
One particular subculture which I happen to have been a part of since its inception here in Japan, Gacha Gaming. Tourists were always a thing. I don't think there's ever been a time that there hasn't been a certain amount of these kinds of people around, but as many others before me have mentioned, there has been an explosion of interest in gacha games in the past 5 years, brought about ever since COVID forced everyone indoors. And while stuck inside, people were understandably bored. People looked to different things to keep themselves occupied. Some got into anime, some got into art or music, basically anything that they could do indoors. And
some got into shit posting, some got into OnlyFans. A lot of us just suffered through Genshin Impact for a while, man.
Then in the summer of 2020, there were whispers of a new free-to-play game that was of equal quality to something from Nintendo, so much so that it was being called
we're talking about
Breath
Genshin
of
Impact.
Waifu.
Oh, no.
I am, of course, talking about Genshin Impact. Before this, most normie...
I'm going to say whatever comes out of his mouth, I'm probably going to agree with, but I will agree with this one point, dude. We'll talk about it. The C19 Genshin tax, dude. Oh my God. I don't know if that game would have even become the thing that it is today if it didn't come out the exact time that it came out. Honestly.
Would never have even thought about picking up a gacha game. Like a game that's dependent on loot boxes for the characters? Ugh. But because of the severe circumstances that we were in at the time, many people gave it a shot. They liked it and they recommended it to their friends who recommended it to their friends and so on and so forth until by the end of it, we had a new generation of gacha gamers. And I say gacha gamers in quotes because these people very much consider themselves so. And why wouldn't they? They've been playing this game for 5 years at this point.
All right, listen, if someone can play Genshin Impact, a gacha game, for 5 years, and you're still gonna call him a tourist, I don't know if I can get on that train. Bro, what do you want him to do? Slave down in the coal mines or whatever and play 19 different gacha games and experience everything? Where are we going with this, brother?
Most popular gacha game around the world, in fact. They've even played other gacha games like Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, and maybe even Wuthering Waves. 5 years is...
So 3 Mihoyo games and then... Action Genshin, basically.
A long time after all. Of course, anyone would be an expert with that much time in any given field, right? These are what I would like to call...
No. Most people don't even know what an aura is in Genshin Impact still. Or how auras interact with each other. With the elemental combat system. Most people don't. Most people want it razor language. Like, okay, I need to do X amount of Dendro so I don't lose my... whatever application.
Gacha Game tourists. Like I said, these people were always there, but since the COVID pandemic, and especially with the blow up of things like TikTok, there has definitely been an equal blow up of Gacha Game tourists in the space. A lot of people think that this whole gacha tourism thing only really started recently, like a couple of years ago or something. But no, this problem has been
Didn't you just say 5 years?
around for quite a while now, speaking about the otaku community in general, of which gacha games tend to be a part. I agree with Joey and many others out there that these subculture tourists can be a problem, but the thing is, they're like Thanos in that they are also an inevitability. Compared to anime, gacha gaming is still a relatively new subculture. Comparatively, it's still in its infancy. I arrived here in Japan in September of 2009, and the first game recognized as being an actual gacha game is Dragon Collection, that was released in September of 2010. And while it was a moderate success, it didn't really get all that much attention. At the time, Kaito Royale was the big thing that everyone was playing. The first gacha game that got significant traction was Puzzle and Dragons in February of 2012.
I remember P&D.
I still remember riding the train to and from work and seeing everyone with phones in hand swiping the balls around to make chains of colors and such. I remember downloading the game for myself on my Galaxy S3, and even though I don't remember the first monster I pulled, I played the game because it was an easy way to...
Bro, isn't that wild, dude? S3, we're on like S25, S26 now. Isn't that crazy alone? I know it has nothing to do with the video. That's wild.
And the game itself was pretty addicting. Then there was Monster Strike in October of 2013, and holy shit. I thought Puzzle and Dragons was big, but Monster Strike made them look like peanuts in comparison. To this day, Monster Strike still holds the record for being the single highest grossing gacha game of all time. But still, despite all this hype and what seemed like everyone playing this game, there wasn't really an online gacha game community. Sure, you could try and find something on 2chan, but the less said about that place, the better. My point is, though, that even though these games were getting a huge amount of attention in Japan, there was still literally nothing outside of Japan. Because of course there wasn't. These games weren't in any other language other than Japanese, and the number of Japanese fluent people interested in gacha living outside of Japan was very limited at the time, to say the least.
Yeah, about this time, I think about this time in gaming culture. The West was dealing with on-disc DLC at this point, you know? That's probably where we were, boys. We were hey, the 2 expansions, they're coming out, dude. $20 each. Where's the data for them? On the disc.
Then finding any kind of community outside of Japan for things like this, like anime, manga, Vocaloids, gacha games, etc., was somewhat difficult. Movies were a bit of a different story. Things like Battle Royale, The Grudge, and Ghibli movies were okay, and you wouldn't really get bullied for liking them. Joey is right that it wasn't until around the mid-2010s that the stigma of liking these kinds of things started to fade away. And also, like Joey, I was shocked when throughout the COVID pandemic, those same people that I know for a fact would be the same kids that bullied me at school for liking this stuff started turning around and saying things like, you know what, Goku is actually kind of a badass. And before, for gaming, when it was loot boxes, blech, to now where it's 50-50 chance at 90 pity, hey, that's pretty good. Now, just like anime, you don't get bullied for liking gacha, you get bullied for liking the wrong gacha. You guys really don't realize how good you have it right now, and yes, I do realize I am sounding like the biggest unk ever, but
it's because you are unk. I really hope that, I don't know where this is leading, because we're getting the grand backstory, I guess, of like his credentials. I hope he just shits on everybody. I hope he does, dude. I hope he, with the whole, like, you guys don't understand how good it is. I had to walk up a hill every day on a full blood moon. And we had a 0.005% chance for our rainbow summon, and there was no pity. I hope that's what we get.
Putting that aside, while gacha has gained a lot more popularity in recent years, it still has a ways to go before it's even considered mainstream. Again, outside of Japan, that is. The closest thing that I could consider to being mainstream is, as I mentioned, Genshin Impact.
I was just going to say, I don't know if we can make that argument when, like, Genshin Impact, as you said, is like 5 years old now, and now I'm not gonna say a majority. A good amount of the population has played that game, or have seen it, or something, or knows someone who's played it. Right? Like, that's pretty mainstream. It's not like mainstream isn't like, oh, if someone says Genshin, everyone in the room knows what it is. Like, if 30% or 20% of people at any given time knows what you're talking about when you say Genshin Impact, or has an idea about it, or they go, is that Breath of the Wild Zelda game? If you are big enough for someone to name drop Genshin and be like, is that the Legend of Zelda game? Legend of Zelda is mainstream, right? Link is a guy, right? Link is a big, That's a big name. So if you can make that connection just with the name Genshin Impact, I think we're pretty strong.
And then that might only be because of the COVID pandemic keeping everybody inside for years and years, bored out of their minds to the point where they're like, all right, fine, let me give this Chinese Zelda ripoff thing a try. And then end up enjoying it. Its availability on mobile made it even more accessible than if it was just for PC too. Pretty much everyone had a phone,
on mobile,
and
though.
while there were plenty of bugs on launch, Genshin was able to be played on a lot of devices, opening itself up to create a lot of gacha fans in the meanwhile. Or rather, should I say, more specifically, Genshin fans.
I'll never get it. You guys got to let me know. Like, have you guys ever played like Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, all the action, open world exploration RPGs, the gachas? Have you played those on mobile, dude? Because like, I want to just throw my phone through a wall anytime I try. I don't think it's a pleasant experience. I personally hate it. I think it's an absolute garbage experience. That's why when people are like, Wuthering Waves is a mobile gacha game, I'm like, what are you walking around just opening up treasure chests, I guess? Like, even then, like, no, please
while
don't.
These people might not be tourists when it comes to Genshin or even Wuthering Waves or any of the newer games that they're playing right now, they might be sweaty experts who know the ins and outs of these games better than some of the developers actually working on the game itself. But in saying that, they are still very much gacha game tourists. So how can gacha tourism or a gacha game...
I'm gonna let you finish, but like, bro, we about to... He might know the game better than the developers. He might have played it for like 10 years, and he might have been in here, for 10 years of experience, but he's a tourist, bro. That is like the ultimate gatekeep shit I have ever heard, bro. What do you want him to do? Like, what do you need to do? Like, play gacha games until the day you die, and then you're finally not a tourist at this point?
Tourist
like, what?
Be a problem. Well, it's a problem for a number of reasons, and I think the biggest one may have to do with the perspectives of those who have been in the gacha community, the online gacha community, for as long as it's been around. One of the biggest problems that comes with tourists like this is that they don't understand the history but feel a sense of authority, or rather entitlement, to declare what should and shouldn't happen in the gacha community.
But if you add another 10, like if someone's currently playing and has played gacha games for 10 years, and you say 10, 15, whatever, right? You haven't played them long enough for your opinion to matter. I've played them 10 years longer. Like, at what point, so my opinion matters. At what point is the break point, right? Who's to say that you know everything there is to know about gacha games? Have you played every single gacha game, experienced every sort of banner system, experienced every sort of dupe system? Have you played them all? You know them all?
This is the biggest problem I think most people have with tourists. Them telling other people what they should...
And then you're going to call them a tourist. You're literally you're about to tell everyone right now what they should and shouldn't believe, aren't you? Let's go.
And shouldn't do, or what they can and can't like in a space that they fundamentally do not understand. Here's the thing though, and this will probably get a lot of certain people riled up. While there are possible problems that might happen with some tourists, I don't think being a gacha tourist is necessarily a bad thing.
You haven't even really defined what the fuck a tourist is yet, brother. No time frame, no amount of games played, like nothing. Nothing. There's nothing to drive what your definition of a tourist.
A tourist at some point or another. Anyone angry with these people just existing is just being unreasonable. It's like saying I hate children, but adults are okay, despite the fact that all adults were children at some point in their life. Tourists in the otaku community have always been a thing, but as Joy pointed out, we didn't call them tourists at the time. We called them weeaboos. I remember back in 2009, there was this video that went viral both in and out of the otaku circles. It was an ad for SakuraCon 2009, and if you're around at the time, you know exactly which video I'm talking about.
Wait. Tourist, someone who isn't experienced enough in any given space, in your opinion, that's what you define as a tourist. Right? I'm just making sure I'm following this right. I'm leaning back. I got my eyes up here. But they were also called the weeaboo? Weeaboo's like you're way into it, right? How can they those clash? Those clash, brother. Those clash. Not into it enough, tourist. Into it way too much, otaku weeaboo. Not interchangeable, all right?
The people outside of the otaku community were laughing at it because this is how they saw Weeaboos, who they defined as anyone that was into the otaku stuff. And us inside the otaku community were laughing at it because it was like a caricature of what people thought of us, and we thought it was equally shallow and hilarious because at the same time we knew someone who did in fact live up to that caricature, i.e. someone that you might call a tourist by today's definition. But even us in the small otaku community that there was at the time used the word weeaboo to refer to these people who watched those few seasons of Naruto or Death Note and bought themselves a headband and claimed to love anime in Japan so much to the point where they think, hang on, I'll let Joey say this because he really...
Okay, I'll agree with that. That is a weeaboo, right? When you're buying shit and dressing up and being like, oh, dude, I'm a ninja. Okay, I got you.
Really did say it best.
What is a weeaboo? A weeaboo is essentially just somebody who is non-Japanese, who loves anime so much to the point where they think they understand everything about Japan and Japanese culture and Japanese subculture, but in reality they are completely misguided.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna break this down for you real quick. This is the fucking problem. This is a huge fucking problem right here with this definition, right? I'm gonna scroll it. So just because someone is non-Japanese and they love anime a ton does not automatically it does not automatically make it so that all of those people in that category who just really like anime also believe that they understand everything about Japan and Japanese subculture. Is there like in a Venn diagram, is there going to be an overlap? Yeah, well, those people are just assholes, right? Those people are just ignorant people who like anime a lot. You can have one group of people who love anime a shit ton, whether they cosplay, it doesn't matter. They love them all. They're over here in this ball, right? And then you just have egotistical people over here that don't like anime. And then when you put the spheres together, there's going to be an overlapping sphere of egotistical assholes who really like anime. So you're going to get this thing right here with to the point. That means that a weeaboo is essentially just someone, right, that is non-Japanese who loves anime so much to the point where they think they understand everything about Japan and Japanese subculture. I don't think like there's a point where like you like anime so much that you become an asshole and think you know everything about everything. I think that's just an intrinsic problem with your person. I don't think it has anything about loving anime, right?
Culture and Japanese subculture, but in reality they are completely misguided.
And I agree with there's a ton of people that are probably like that.
Fictional Japanese cartoons. And they create their entire personality around that so that they could fit in with a niche and fit in with who they think they actually are. It kind of sounds like an anime tourist.
So weeaboo became a word that had two different meanings. One for those that was used outside of the otaku community to refer to anyone that they saw as an otaku, and one that was used inside the otaku community to refer to anyone who only had a superficial understanding and appreciation for some aspects of otaku culture. The same thing is still happening to this day.
Well, and you know, the real one was like weeaboo was a term, not to burst your bubble of you living in otaku only life, apparently. Weeaboo was a term used by normal people, right? What you would define as normal people who aren't in any of that stuff. Where you go, yeah, that girl's got a cat tail on with a Naruto headband, and she ain't looking very good about it, and she's running around purring and shit back in like the 2000s while screaming Japanese. That was a weeaboo, all right? That's what that was. That's a lot of different things now, but that's what it was.
A few gacha games for a few years and think they have a better understanding of the genre and, by extension, the culture of Japan and the Japanese people that have started it. They isolate themselves to one particular corner of whatever niche they're in and think that they are the true fans of that niche as a whole. Maybe they've only played games like Nikkei or...
Is this just a fucking video about who's the biggest true nerd on the internet? Is that what this is? Holy shit.
They're gratuitous fan service. They only play games like these and come away with the opinion that that's what gacha is. Only female characters dressed in skimpy outfits designed for male players to goon over. Or maybe they've only played Genshin Impact and other Hoyo games and think that all gacha must have a 50-50 system with 90 pity and RNG substats. They believe that
That's just
their
the most
thoughts and
popular
opinions
one,
based on an
the
extremely
hoyofication.
limited exposure to the genre are accurately representative of the genre as a whole, which makes these kinds of people, ironically, some of the biggest tourists, you know? Using the word tourist as it is, it's like someone coming to Japan, visiting Tokyo, and spending most of their time in places like Akihabara, Shinjuku,
I
and
agree with
Odaiba,
some of this.
and maybe they're in time for comic market and see the vast number of people there, then thinking, yeah, this is what Japan is. This is what Japan is all about. It's essentially the same thing. These people.
Well, that person's just a fucking idiot. You don't show up to a country and go to a city, one little city, and go, damn, that's all of America. We went to Detroit. That's all we got. Or we showed up to Louisiana. All of America must be like this.
People surround themselves in a very limited, very specific part of the culture.
Those are
In
just
this
narrow-minded
case,
idiots.
Gacha gaming culture, and they don't understand the history or context. They take a very superficial view of some games and apply what they see to say that, yep, this is it. This is what gacha is. And if you disagree, then you are a tourist.
I agree with that. Yeah, like, for sure. If someone's played 2 gacha games and they think that 50-50 pity and a weapon character double banner 50-50 pity is normal, and that's like what every gacha game is, and they're adamant about that, are they a gacha tourist, though, or are they just an idiot? I would go with they're just dumb. You know? I would just go like they're just shit posting on the internet at that point. I don't know. Half this stuff's probably just people shit posting.
However, a difference between Weeaboo and a tourist, and I really like the distinction that Joey gave. A Weeaboo just enjoys whatever it is that they enjoy, even if it is at a superficial level. But a tourist thinks that their opinion is more correct than anybody else. As I mentioned before, most of these gacha tourists started playing gacha over the pandemic and have only really experienced the past 5 years of gacha, if that.
So what do you call people who have limited exposure to gacha games but don't have an opinion on the internet about it? Aren't those like the true tourists? Wouldn't those be the true tourists? Like someone who's played one gacha game and they just kind of hang out and they're like cool with it? And they don't like shit the bed every time something goes, you know, oh my God, Setlalia came out and she has a pillow and I hate this. Is that what we're going with? That's the tourist? They don't like a character design?
And gacha, just like anime, has certainly changed a lot in that time. Before, we were happy with the cheap PNG sprites bobbing up and down on screen, and now we have in-game rendered animations that could be cut together and packaged as a quality movie or something. And in that time, there have been a plethora of new gacha games that have been released to carve out their own specific niche in this already small niche in the wider gaming community. Games focusing solely on female characters or only on male characters, idle games, rhythm games, RPGs, third-person shooters, first-person dating sims, etc. It's not just the different types of gacha games that are out there that has changed, but the quality has seen a significant increase. These people have seen some games go more towards a certain theme or demographic and have determined that, yep, that's it. That's what gacha is. And anything that falls outside of that scope of how they think gacha is or how they think gacha should be is deemed as wrong or incorrect, and by
I'm just trying to follow. It sounds like he's just talking about assholes still, though. I don't know.
Anyone who disagrees with them is
just ignorant
tourist.
people.
I've used this analogy before, and it was weird to hear someone else use it, but it really is like listening to a rock band and thinking that all music needs to sound like rock music for it to constitute as music, or even that rock bands...
No. It'd be like listening to a specific rock band and then assuming that all rock bands should sound like that specific band. Not all music.